Florida's primary elections are about a month away, so CBS News political correspondent Ed O'Keefe went down to Miami to find out what voters there are thinking about President Trump, Russia, and those upcoming midterms. Here's a look at his conversation with two Republicans, one Democrat, and one independent voter.
The president, when he was in Europe, said he thought immigration was, quote, changing the culture, unquote, and a very negative thing, he said, for Europe. Do you think the same when you look around the United States?
Yes.
You do?
Definitely. My parents were immigrants. I'm an immigrant. I was born in Argentina. I came when I was 2. And I see the type of immigration that is coming in now. And I have coworkers who can't even speak English. You're in America. You need to do your job in English. I'm sorry. I'm an immigrant. But it touches home.
Is it ruining the culture of the United States?
No, because Trump is trying to put a stop to it.
The thought that they are changing the culture of a country. I mean, that doesn't give you any pause or concern?
It does. It does. I think they are, ruining their country. You see these people having parades here in the United States. They're immigrants, and they're waving Mexican flags. This is America. Why don't they have a U.S. flag, American flag? If you come here, you've got to, what are you going to, you're going to support our culture, or are you going to bring your culture here?
Monica, you've been quietly listening. Just curious what you make of his statement and his stance on immigration.
Okay, well, this is a nation of laws, and we follow laws. The only thing is just the way in which it is done. There's a right way and there's a wrong way. I feel that what is happening now, I find it very inhumane.
Show of hands. Do you feel that you are better off economically now than before Donald Trump became president? If you agree,
Absolutely.
put your hand up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. You didn't raise your hand.
Doesn't make a difference to me. I'm the same.
Okay. Have any of you seen it on your paycheck or seen it in your bank account, a net benefit, a positive benefit from the tax cut?
Yes.
In what way?
I'm making about $100 more each paycheck. It's amazing. A 30-year-old getting $100 more, that's great for me.
I'm retired, so I don't have a paycheck to see the big Trump tax cut.
When President Trump took over, I got 2 pay raises. One, because he gave every military retiree a pay raise, and at the same time, the tax cut was like another pay raise.
What's your understanding of the trade war that he's overseeing or seeking with Europe, with China?
I think in the long run, he wants to bring home jobs, so it could be a good thing, but it's too soon.
The trade war is definitely a good thing. Trump campaigned on it. This country has been ripped off for the last 30, 40 years by other countries, and it's not fair. Trump wants fair trade, and I agree with him 100%, and I think that eventually we are going to win the trade war.
What is that going to look like, though?
It's going to be some pain in this process right now.
For who?
For China, for Canada, for Mexico, for the EU, even for maybe some industries in the United States. But it's going to be worth it for the long term, because they're going to flinch eventually. The other countries, China and Canada, they're going to come and they're going to call Trump and they're going to want to make a deal. And we are going to win this trade war.
I think the word tariffs scare a lot of people, but I think it's too early to tell.
I don't see him to be such a great negotiator. He placed tariffs on other countries. He wasn't banking on other countries turning around and doing the same to us. So we'll see how that plays out in the future.
Trump is a master negotiator. He knows what he's doing.
Exactly.
He is a genius.
We'll put you down as undecided.
Ed O'Keefe joins us now from Washington. Ed, good to see you again. Why do you choose Florida to talk to voters, and what, if anything, that they said surprised you?
Well, the state has one of the most expensive and competitive Senate races ahead of it this year. Bill Nelson, the incumbent Democrat, is going to face Rick Scott, the Republican governor, who's moving on to run for the Senate seat. As it often does, it may come down to the Sunshine State that night, depending on how other Senate contests are breaking across the country. Also have a competitive governor's race to replace Rick Scott. Democrats have a crowded primary next month to determine who will be their candidate, and there are two Republicans at the top of the heap: Adam Putnam, a former congressman and the agriculture commissioner, and Ron DeSantis, who's a congressman right now, who are duking it out to replace Scott on the GOP side. Plus, down in Miami, where we were, you've got at least two, maybe three competitive House races. And again, if we're on a tight night where we're looking to see whether House Democrats can get over that 23-seat margin they need to retake control, 1, 2, or 3 of those seats in the Miami area, with Republican incumbents facing what some would say are the races of their lives, and one open seat because of a retiring Republican, it's always possible that those could be the ones that determine the balance of power. So why not?
And was there anything you saw down there that gave you a sense of the answer to those questions?
Well, confirmation that they are very familiar, of course, with the president and everything he does on a regular basis. Some understanding and interest in the Senate contest, and strong opinions on Rick Scott, but very little understanding still, and this is typical, of who is running for the House seats. The primaries in Florida are August 28th, which by then kids will be back in school. So they've got about a month or so to sort that out. And then, of course, the campaigns there will continue into the fall. The other interesting thing, these things can get kind of heated at different times. We did one of these a few weeks ago in Arizona, and the folks basically left afterward because I think they'd had it with each other. In this case, though, they all sat down, had a glass of wine together, and tried to sort it out, and agreed to get together again at some point in the future.
It looks civil, and I want to play another clip in exchange when you asked the group which party they were voting for in November, and then maybe more meaningfully, what they would like to see their side do if their party won. Let's listen.
If Democrats were to take back the House, at least, what would you like to see them try to do, knowing that they're going to have to work with the president and potentially a Republican Senate? What realistically could they get done?
I would hope that they would move towards impeachment.
You do?
Yes, 100%.
And so that's why I'm voting this November, to make sure that Republicans control the House.
Monica, you said you want to see them impeach him. Why?
I feel that the way he obtained the White House was not a democratic way.
I'm becoming more impressed they shared that glass of wine, Ed.
Exactly.
When you hear that, do you think this is typical of the debate around the country? And do you think people are campaigning based on that level of division and animus?
Republicans are. Democrats, some are, depending on how safely or deeply blue the district is. But you're certainly seeing a lot of Democrats in swing districts avoiding the I word entirely if they can, impeachment. Saying, look, I don't want to go there until we see what the special counsel has concluded. It's not necessarily something for me to even consider at this point. But to see voters going there, diehard partisans, suggests that that's going to be a real tricky balancing act for a lot of Democrats across the country who are going to have supporters that want to see red meat if Democrats retake control, but know that they've got to win over independents and maybe some Republicans in order to win in these seats. So it's a tricky conversation to have. And that support or that defense of the president, the desire to protect him, was telling. And I think it's something we'll also see in a lot of districts across the country.
Yeah, it's an interesting challenge for Democrats and one familiar to Republicans who have had to split the difference between their passionate base and the mainstream voter that gets you elected in a purple district. I want to play, though, another clip where you asked this panel where they got their news and how the phrase fake news, being called fake news, impacts the credibility of news organizations. Let's hear some of that.
You hear this conversation about, well, I watch whatever channel, the other guys are fake news. Just curious that, if that's the case, does that mean that they're untrustworthy or that they're potentially not giving you the whole truth?
When they talk about fake news, really there's two stations that jump up, MSNBC and CNN.
Okay.
That fake news, he started that. I mean, he has ruined the credibility.
He's right.
According to you, that's your opinion.
CNN is fake news. They go there.
But the free press is part of our democracy, and you are casting doubt. It is their responsibility to report the news to us.
Exactly, not to lie.
Not to make up the news.
Well, you're looking at
make it up.
You look at Fox, and I don't find that to be a credible news source.
Well,
They're
sorry.
propaganda.
Sorry.
But you have watched them.
I look at them to see the difference. I don't look at them to get any news or to base, my opinions. I go to other news sources, but Fox, I will not. I don't look at them, like I said, to obtain any news of any kind.
Do either of you watch the other channels at all to at least get a different opinion, or no?
Absolutely not. I don't watch any fake news.
And there's our national schism in a nutshell. Ed, what did you learn about how these voters are coming to their feelings about who's trustworthy and who's not?
It really depends on who they're spending time watching. And you could hear some of the more popular opinions of people on several of our colleagues' channels sort of come through these guys. And it just shows you how intently people are listening to it and how much they really devote themselves to understanding the arguments, usually in their favor and not necessarily what the other side believes. It was really telling and proves that, there's a lot of talk and academic research into all this, but that proved there that, the partisan divide definitely exists.
It sure does. Ed O'Keefe, thanks for walking us through some of it. Good to see you.
Take care.